Why do you think the highest rates of obesity are among African American women?
Ooh, that's it's a complex question, and I'm going to do the best I can to answer it. But I don't know that I am as qualified as I'd like to be from certain regards. I think in general, African Americans have not been set up for success in this country. Uh, what is available in our neighborhoods, the
Mhm.
programs that have been there, opportunity from an educational standpoint, opportunity from a job standpoint, opportunity from a housing standpoint. So already we are not set up for success. Then you're talking about those practices that we had in slavery, where we didn't get to have the good meat. We used to have to use the leftovers, whatever the scraps were, and so we learned how to make it work. But and we now praise it as, this is a part of our base food or our soul food, or but it is we're no longer there, but we're still using those same practices that we did before. And I think if I take all of that out, if I don't look at just how America has set us up, um, because of the way the world is, I think oftentimes the focus is making sure are the kids fed, is the house clean. We're just trying to get through day to day. We don't have the luxury of we're, I hate to say that most of us are living paycheck to paycheck, because that's not what it is necessarily. But from a generational standpoint, if you look at African American wealth versus less someone who's not African American, look at their wealth generationally, we're a couple of generations behind. It's not our fault. So, but the focus then is, okay. Now, how do I make this better? How do I make sure the kids are taken care of? How do I make sure I educate myself? How do I? And so sometimes even something as simple as having the time and not having being exposed to different things. I'm thinking the other thing, we have not been exposed to all the health and fitness things that are out there. When I lived in Oakland, there was one grocery store in a probably a 15-mile radius. And where I live right now, I can go to three grocery stores, and I can run to one, two, three of them, and it's a 8-minute run. So you're talking about exposure. I have all these different choices, and it's easy for me to get healthy food out here versus being in an inner city. It's a lot more challenging.
Yeah,
So
that's facts. That's
we
that.
we we definitely have to educate ourselves, and look, we weren't set up for success in some regard, but this is now where we get to be intentional and understand that those things that they replaced, or the position that they placed us as a community, as a culture in the past, does not have to be our today. We have to be more diligent in terms of learning, and it is a
Mhm.
challenge. Look, when I was younger, I used to think that, and God bless our parents, but I used to think that you go to the gym to get a donut, because at the end of the workout, my mom would always go get a donut. And so you're laughing, but so I had to learn that, okay, that's actually not a healthy approach to getting donuts.
Working out.
So it's simple things, and it
Oh
seems
man,
so
that's awesome.
silly, or something simple like, if you're eating something and you get heartburn, then you probably shouldn't be eating it. It's your body talking to you. We're telling you, hey, it's time to put that down. I still remember, and it broke my heart. I was in Vallejo, and I was actually leaving church, and there was a Burger King right across the way where the church was, and there was this lady in an oxygen mask, and she was standing in line. She was on a wheelchair and standing in line, and she was going to get her burger, and she didn't see how that correlated with how her body was responding, but we're not even
Mm.
being taught to think that way. We're not taught to think that how the fuel that we're putting in our system is affecting our health. So
Oh man.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I think
it's a loaded question, but this is where I go back to, we can't focus on what happened in the past. We have to focus on what we can control now, and there's so much opportunity available to us. Yes, we have to search for it, and we have to dig for it a little bit, but we're worth it. We're worth the investment, and we're worth the challenge. We believe it's there for a reason, or that's it's that title for a reason.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that was a I mean, that was a loaded question. And like I said, it's a loaded response because there's
So much.
so
Yeah.
many different. Yeah, actually, I touched upon this earlier in the week. Why I personally believe that that is the case, and I can even remember, as a young girl when I was on certain diets, and I would go into certain situations, and they would kind of joke. You may have friends joke or people joke, but it's like, oh, you eating that rabbit food or
Yeah.
the white people food or whatever. And there was like this idea where it's like healthy food or things that were good for your body were for white folks
Yeah.
you know and so
But
it was just
but
it's
that's
just
not what
little
that's
things like that, huh?
But I'm sorry, but think about where that is actually based from, you know, in terms of
Right.
come back from slavery, where it's like at first we weren't even good enough to even, and then we made it into our own and say, okay, well now we'll make it a joke, as opposed to understanding really where was the foundation of that sort of thinking. So there's a lot to address. It's a question where I'm like, whew, it's a weighted question,
It
but
is a weighted question. But I think that's why I think it's great to have, to have these conversations and to have, people like us actually like seeing people like us being active. Because I remember for me, for a long time, I looking in certain environments, and I would see certain kinds of people exercising or certain
yeah,
kinds of people back riding. And for me, I just, you don't even really know how sometimes you can kind of like, you can internalize that as like, oh, that's not for me. That's not something that I do. That's not something that our people do. You know what I mean?
absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. So on to